Okay guys, let's look at the car a little bit. Now after we going over the diagram, and you remember seeing that, same thing just like I laid out. Now we want to get familiar with the car. We want to know where is these items located. So let's go ahead and see if we can't find, say, these two fuses right here. Alright, we got a fuse here. This one right here says fuse 1, 50 amps. Follow the orange down, comes over. Alright, this is going to be controlling the secondary air pump. Okay, now where is that located, this fuse? Alright, the fuse is located right here in this here box right next to the battery. See this very first one right here? That's fuse 1. This is for our secondary air pump. It's 50 amps. Alright, now let's take a look at the next fuse. This here fuse 2, 50 amps. Now this fuse, remember, it goes to the relay contact, normally open on the fuel pump, comes across, goes over, okay? Now it goes up to fuse 43, then it comes down, and now you can see that it's going to feed our secondary air injection solenoid and also the relay coil for the air pump. Let's go to this one, 50 amps, that's right here. Second one over, fuse 2, okay? 50 amps. Let's go to this one here. Let's go to this relay. This relay right here for the secondary air pump, that's over here. Come back over to this component right there, and let's open this up. There's our relay, secondary air pump. Next, we got this fuse, fuse 43. Where is that located? Okay, that says it's in the fuse panel. That is located inside the compartment of the car. Alright, here's where we're at. Now, here's all the fuses. Okay, fuse 43. Now what you're going to see, you ain't going to see anything that's marked out like fuel pump or window defogger or any of that. What you're going to see, you're going to see all these pictures. Now, these pictures, I guess, Germany decided to use the pictures, and they're universal, so I guess worldwide that we're supposed to know what all these pictures are supposed to mean. Some of them might be a little obvious, but some of them I don't even know what they are. But anyway, you could take the 43, I think that's what it was. Yep, 43. It's located right here. Second one from the bottom, and relate that and correlate it to over here. Okay? So, now we have a fuel pump relay. Where is that located? Okay, you would think under the hood. No, because of the, you remember the commercial? Power of German engineering. Somebody sitting in a conference room says, hey, we can't put these relays up underneath this here car, you know, out there in the hood compartment. Some other guy says, hey, I know where we can take them to put them at. Let's put them all and tuck them up underneath here, and let's put a plastic cover up over here so we can't get to it. So I'm not at this point looking to pull all of this stuff down and the cover, you know, to get access to that right now, you know, as far as in jumping it out. So I got some other things in mind, you know, as far as troubleshooting. We're going to use old methods here, and earlier I had a bad comm on here, so I'm pretty sure everything looked fine as far as the blower moved, you know, came on. The relay had to come on right here, of course, for this to come on. So I'm going to be trying to do stuff out here that's basically out up under the hood. So I'm going to just not worry about this here fuel pump relay, because I'm not really, don't want to get up under there and digging up underneath this stuff. So as I mentioned, we're going to use old school methods. I can turn it on with a scanner, but I know most of you guys are not going to have a scanner, so let's see what we can do just using jumper wires, fuse jumper wires, and, you know, possibly a test light and that kind of stuff. Okay guys, for reference, here's our relay center that's up under the dash. Now our fuel pump relay is right here. It's number 4. Now just while we're here, Volkswagen calls these top 13 relays, they call it a 13-fold auxiliary relay panel. Now the one down here where our fuel pump is at is called the relay panel. Okay, just so you guys can see that now. Back out just a tad and you can actually maybe read that. Okay? Okay guys, you see I'm over top of the engine right now. See, after we got the front end pulled out of here, Now look at here. I can just get right in here and lug this engine. No, that's not true. I still don't love this engine, okay? But look, we can get right over everything, see everything. Now let's go over the intake manifold lines here, the vacuum lines. Hey guys, now what we're doing, we're looking at the front of the engine. Here's the intake manifold, we're coming back. Okay, here's these 4 ports that I was talking about early on the drawing. Now if you remember on the drawing, I had them draw it out going this way on the driver's side. Actually, these ports are on the back side next to the firewall. I took all of this drawing right here, took it from Volkswagen's illustration manual, diagram that they had for the vacuum system, so that's why I drew it up. So I'm looking at it for the first time just with you guys here on this car. Okay, this here, going out to the leak detection pump. Okay, now let's go to this one right here. That one right there is going back to the brake booster. You follow my fingers, follow it across, and right here. And I showed this out before. You see the split? Let me get my hands. It is really tight in here on this engine. You can see that split right there on the top, okay, of this plastic pipe going down to the brake booster. Now, let's go back. Now we also have this one right here. Okay, it's going up. This line is going out, going over, and it does go to the purge solenoid, which is right down in here. Okay, there it is, right there. Now let's go back. Now, so we have this one split line, which I mentioned in an earlier video. Now we also have a split in this PCV breather hose right here. Okay. Let me see if I can show you this, guys, so you can get a better shot. I did show it in an earlier video, but this thing has one big gapping hole in there. Okay, see if you can see that. There you go. Okay, so now here's what I'm thinking. Now you remember we had a P1136. We had a lean code, plus we also had a P0411, secondary airflow not detected. Well, it's very possible that with these here large vacuum leaks, that it could not have been, maybe there was not enough vacuum going down here to the, for the injection air solenoid to open up the combi valve. So it's very possible that these 2 items, what I obviously see, could be the whole problem. We don't know that yet, but we're gonna do the inspection on the vacuum lines. Going down to the secondary air system, we're going to do the checks on that. We got the front of this engine open, and we're going to go through this here checks anyway. All right, let's go back over here. Now notice this right here, this line. This here vacuum line is feeding this line right here is feeding the secondary air injection system. In other words, that is right here, coming off of the port. Okay, now this line's of plastic. I thought they may be rubber, okay, but it turns out to be plastic. All right. Now, to get this thing off, what I'm thinking about doing is I'm thinking about injecting the smoke into this line. So get your connector. Let me get this here zoomed in a little bit for you so you can see what I'm going to do. Now, you see this here connector? Get it turned like this. And what you want to do is you want to squeeze on the top and the bottom of this. So let me see if I can get my fingers in there, squeeze it, and while you're squeezing it, just pull it off, okay? And you can see it's got a little O-ring there. Like what I'm doing right now is I'm just doing a visual inspection of this here vacuum line that's going down to the secondary air system. Now, as I mentioned, this line here is plastic, okay? Now, if I see that this line is in good shape, I'm not going to worry about it. Now, if it was rubber or something like that, I would definitely be replacing this stuff, because with 125,000 miles on this engine, this here being rubber, it would have definitely, took care of itself there and just deteriorated. Now, we can also kind of compare our diagram, okay? Now, the first thing it says it's going to go to is this T. So here I am, T. Great. Looks like it's matching right up. Next thing, coming off the T, we're going to the fuel pressure regulator. Great. Right there. Okay. Now I'm looking this here elbow over. I don't see anything obviously wrong with that. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure this here lines up. I'm going to measure the OD and I'm going to measure the ID for you guys also. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and let's measure this here plastic line. This will be just for reference for you guys. This is in metric. I got 5.1 OD. Let's go inside. OD for the ID on this thing. 2.95. Okay. Let me stick him back in there. Okay guys, this is this plastic line that we talked about. It's coming down, and it's hitting this check valve. Remember I said the black side of this here check valve will go back to the vacuum source. That's right, looking good. Okay, the next thing it's supposed to do is we were supposed to come to a T. Yep, there's a T right there. Okay, and then from there we're supposed to go down to another T. Yep, there he is right there. Now we're going to come out of there and we're going to head down to a vacuum reservoir. And there he is. There's your vacuum reservoir way down here. Okay, so we have our source coming over here. We're going to another valve. Okay, this valve right here. Now you see this valve right here. Let's see if I can get you another shot here. And you see, like I said, you see how this thing is buried in there? Maybe get a little bit more light. This is probably the best it's going to get is right there, this here valve. This valve right here is the intake manifold changeover solenoid valve right here. And you can follow this here outlet of this, okay, this line right here. And it's going back up, going back up, going back up, going back up. And you can see that it's coming right up under the bottom of this here rotary valve that I mentioned. This rotary valve, when it gets actuated with vacuum, this here lever, or this here plunger I should say, will pull down. That will turn this here lever 90 degrees clockwise. And then internally in this upper plenum there is a shuttle valve, or as Volkswagen wants to call it, it's an intake manifold changeover barrel. Like I said, it brings in different runners at different lengths at the higher RPM. Okay, now as I mentioned, that's our intake changeover solenoid valve. Now come right up above right here. Okay, there you go, right there. There is our intake, I'm sorry, this is our secondary air injection solenoid valve. Okay, so there's that one. Now looking at the supply line is coming in right here. This is the outlet. Now it's turning, going back around behind the valve, and it's going back out, and it's going over to the combi valve. Now the combi valve, just hold on a little bit, let me get you guys another shot, and that one, trust me, is buried in there. And before we go over there, let me also mention, here's our secondary air pump. Okay, and you can see that this thing is actually kind of buried up under there. If you look, you can get an idea. Look, here's the outside of the intake, right? And then it goes down, and now everything is just back. So there we go. Let's see what we got right here. Okay. Okay. Now, you see this line right here? This line is the intake air tube. This intake air tube comes back, this is going back up to the air filter. Okay, it's coming down, coming down, coming down, and then it's coming back over on this side of the pump. Okay, now if I come up, now you can see another line, which is right here. This is the outlet, and it's going out, it's going out, going out, and that's going into the combi valve. This is I'm right in front of this here combi valve. This is where we're at. This is the outlet hose coming in, and you can see this thing is buried in there. It's just amazing to me how they can pack this stuff in here. That's our dipstick tube right here for the oil. And over here is our air pump. So for that joker to come out of there, looks like this dipstick tube has got to come out. Probably this air pump's got to come out. And so anyway, I think that's the best shot we're going to be able to get on that one. Okay. Okay, this is for the frame of reference, so you can get I think this is probably the best shot we're going to get here. This is the intake manifold changeover solenoid valve. This one up here is the secondary air injection solenoid. Here's our pump, electric motor driving a pump for the combi valve. Okay. Okay, so look, what I'm going to be doing, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to inspect these here vacuum hoses. So that's what I'm going to be looking at here in the next few minutes. All right, guys. Now look, this is this check valve. All right, I'm taking this check valve out. Now trust me, this thing was a lot harder than this earlier, so it took me a minute or so to get this thing off of here. So vacuum should be going that way, so I'm going to blow through it. That's good. Shouldn't go the other way. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now here's another thing I've noticed. You see where it's got all this here cloth on this here hose? Well, that is where they have changed over, and now this is rubber. So when you see this here cloth, it's nothing but rubber. It's got a cloth over outside to help for the heat resistance. So what I'm looking at right now is I'm going to be changing this. I'm going to change this here rubber over to a high temp, thick wall silicone hose. Okay? So when you got rubber like that, it's just a matter of time for this stuff is going to go. Now, I've already looked it over. I didn't see anything obvious. I didn't see any breaks, splits. Now, of course, you know where it's covered over with a cloth like this, I really can't tell. Okay? But I don't see anything obvious. All right? So, elbows look fine. Don't see any splits in the rubber elbows here. Now, this one right here, this is the outlet the vacuum hose going back over to the combi valve, as I mentioned earlier. Now, that joker is buried. It's going back, but what I can see, I mean, it looks okay, but even getting this stuff off this far, it is still a bear to get up in here to actually look and inspect something. Okay? So what I'm going to do for my smoke test, and you remember I was going to do it up there from the top side down into this line. So if my air pressure is coming down from the smoke, you know, from the smoke machine, that means this check valve is going to block that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this check valve and I'm going to reverse it for right now. Okay? Now my airflow with the smoke should come on down to here. But now I like to do this smoke test probably, you know, just do it in one shot. Now that means I need to open this valve up. Okay, so I'm going to have to energize this valve. And also, I like to go ahead and energize, you know, this valve down here for the intake changeover solenoid valve. This way we can be sure that, you know, we're blowing through this thing and making sure all this stuff is going to be open in the passageways. Rubber hose is going to be connecting to this here, and it looks like the rubber hose is all the same size as far as where it goes on to. So let's take a look at that, see what that measurement is. Again, this is metric. This is all the way to the bottom. Okay, keep in mind this will be the ID of the hose. 5.31. If I go up to the very top, they got 4 millimeters. Okay, so 3.5 to 4 millimeter ID. For me, silicone vacuum hose looks like it'll work fine. So that way, you know, either one of those sizes will work. Okay, guys, we didn't actually get into the diagnosis on this, and I know this video is getting a little bit long, so I'm going to go ahead and close this video out. I think it's important that what you see on paper, like the wiring diagrams and the vacuum diagrams that we shown earlier, it's good to point it out to show what's on the car so you can relate it. And this way now you're familiar with everything, where the stuff is located. And I pointed it out. So I apologize for not getting to the diagnosis. I was hoping to get to it a little bit, but then I thought it was a good idea to actually show this stuff, show where it's at, then you'll be a little bit more familiar with it. In the next video, you know, I could just say, well, I'm going to do the solenoid injection valve, blah, blah, blah. And then that way I don't have to go into detail and explaining this, explaining the intake manifold, changeover valve, and the combi valve. So you're already familiar with it. You know where I'm going to be at. So anyway, I appreciate you guys watching, and stay tuned, and we'll get this thing diagnosed and, you know, turning on some solenoids, do a smoke test, and I'm hoping that's what we can do in the next video. So y'all take care, and I appreciate you watching.